Good afternoon, everyone. Dean Holmes here with my special guest, Peter Warren, for UncommonCents number 31. Craig Kamanis sends his apologies via text early this morning. He is on a holiday or a research mission in Fiji, depending on which day you catch him on. But I put the message out to LinkedIn and someone took my request to get a last-minute interview spot, and Peter took the challenge. So welcome, Peter. It's the first time for you on UncommonCents. So thank you for joining and taking that call. Why don't you, in 30 seconds or less, tell us a little bit about yourself and your business, and then we'll jump into the topics of the day.
Thanks, Dean. As they say, long-time listener, first-time speaker or caller. So good to be with you. So Peter Warren, I've been around the industry about 23 years. So I've done all sorts of jobs in the industry. I even was an advisor at one point. But the last, 9 years of my career, I've devoted to the solving the challenge of technology and wealth management, which I think we'll never solve, but we'll always be working on. And so I have a business with a few other talented colleagues called Finura. We do provide a variety of services, particularly around technology-enabled services, and do a lot of consulting to the industry as well on anything to do with advice technology and the ongoing challenges that organisations, both big and small, have. So that's our role. We're an independent business. We're owned by the employees. So we have the luxury of sort of talking fairly openly. And our clients are fundamentally people like yourself, and the stakeholders in the industry just want the best outcome for their clients. So that's
very good. So not a day goes by that advisors and technology and the demand, and I've got a new tech thing for that, or I've got a new app for this, and all of that we face. But I thought today, given your experience and what's come out that you posted on LinkedIn yesterday about in terms of Hub24 buying My Prosperity, I thought that's a great place to start. And probably before we go into the detail of that one, it all links to this concept of client portals as kind of like a first step. So what do you think is the need, first and foremost? Like, why do we need client portals, and should be thinking about that as an advice practice, both from the advisor perspective, and then flip it around as you're a customer as well? You told me, like, why does a customer want a client portal instead of sending an email?
There's two emotions. One is fear. I think the reality is advisors are absolutely shit scared of cybersecurity issues now. We've woken up to it, of what a real risk it is for us. And unfortunately, email is just so non-secure. It's just the reality. And whilst you might have secure email infrastructure, it's quite likely your clients don't. So this is what's driving a lot of this portal adoption. I think the second point, though, is probably the more positive element, and that is that we've got a younger generation of advisors coming through our industry now, and they are looking for better ways that they can engage and present their services and the information they share with clients in the non-traditional ways, and then COVID accelerated a lot of that, right?
Yeah, indeed. You can't go physically to see your advisor, and you then are interacting through Zoom. And we found this as well, is that clients are actually happy to have been happy to continue that journey, even though you can physically see your advisor again.
Yeah, and if you think, I think about, like, in my personal life, like, I have an advisor and my wife and I, and like, you don't wait for your annual review with your advisor to think about your money and want to check in on things. It usually happens at strange times. For my wife, it's 10 o'clock at night. We hop into bed and she's looking at the apps, and I'm like, Jesus, I just want to go to sleep. That's when she wants to talk about money. But so, if you think about the old way, we used to have to wait for a report to be sent to us by a product provider or an advisor. And that's just not 2023. That's not where we're at. So portals are an awesome way that you can create an experience that you think your clients are going to want without bombarding them with information, where they can almost self-serve and find things out when they want to find them out. That's how I think about it.
And that's a great, so we've got a high level of security, especially given it's through two main phone providers, Apple and Google, to app stores that you got to get approved through there. And then it's this secure one-to-one or one to the advice practice communication. So I think that's really valuable. A lot of our businesses have started to use it with push notifications as well. there's lots of people that talk about turning off notifications, but don't turn the ones off from your advisor. But this idea that it's an extra way of cutting through. Sometimes email communication or just the volume of things that advisors have to get signed or get done, is this push notification is an extra way of getting things signed and done. So I think that works really well. The signing functionality is growing in terms of there as well to execute advice documents or complete application forms and things like that. So it's becoming the one way in which you almost do everything with a client.
Yeah, the big aha moment for me was when my advisor started using a portal with my wife and I, and we have a self-managed fund. There's lots of things got to be signed every year, and traditionally it was quite hard to say. I had to say to my wife, "You're going to get an email. You're going to have to sign this," or something. And then the aha moment was we had the portal, and then I literally came home one night and said, "Oh, you're going to get an alert from My Prosperity to sign something about this." She said, "Oh, I've already done it." I'm like,
"Yep.
Hallelujah! How awesome is this?"
Yeah, it's amazing. Just the challenge I leave you with is leaving everyone with this concept of informed consent. When the time of the signature, let's use right now 122, the time of the signature and the time of the opening of the document is exactly the same. And so if you send a statement of advice to a client on the expectation that they read it and they sign it the instant it was opened, we may have an issue there. It's in the back. If you look at DocuSign, right down the bottom, it does tell you the information of how long a client spent reading the particular document that you sent them. So signing off one-page form, you're probably okay, Peter. But if it's a 15-page document, we're collecting the evidence that the client hasn't necessarily read the entire document in DocuSign, notwithstanding you may have presented it elsewhere, et cetera, just a little thought bubble to leave you with there.
I hadn't thought of that. Good point.
So jump into My Prosperity and the acquisition. Someone said on LinkedIn that you predicted this years ago. Feel free to take credit in terms of your predictions coming successful. But why would they have bought it instead of just copying it as Microsoft sometimes does?
Look, I think My Prosperity is not an overnight thing. They've been going 10 years building their software, if not a bit more. Even for a platform like Hub24 or any other business that's got multi-billion dollars in market cap, they still only have 400 or 500 employees. And 3/4 of those are dedicated probably to just running the day-to-day, running the business. So when you talk about product development in 2023, it's capital intensive, it's risky. And there's just lots of reasons why businesses like Hub24 have decided as a strategy, no, rather than build things, we're going to acquire what we think are the best in the market. So I can't speak to Hub24 directly, but this is consistent for them. They acquired Explore Wealth. They acquired Agility Solutions about 5 years ago. And they acquired Class 2 years ago, which should have been, excuse me, for us was what probably triggered the prediction to an extent. The move into Class was quite deliberate to expand their addressable market into accounting services. Class isn't just a self-managed super fund administration. They also own now Infinity. There's other assets in that business that are really attractive. So Hub have long shown their strategic intent around this stuff. The prediction, it's true. We did predict client portals be hot. We did predict something may happen with My Prosperity. The reason being was it was a real standout as a client portal in our industry in terms of its share of market, the quality of the offer. And we also just if you think about those broader themes we spoke about around security, importance of client portals, and just frankly how poor some of the other portals have been off the traditional CRMs. They just haven't kept up with pace. You go, well, this is a really attractive asset. So I wasn't shocked when I heard the news. A few, I guess, sort of came out of the blue, and the timing's interesting. But for me, it's a really smart move by Hub.
Yeah, great. And so if we think about if we try to predict what they're doing in terms of the helping serve, obviously the advisor market today, but notwithstanding that, it would be silly if they're not thinking about the, direct to consumer advice channels in the future. But we know that if we just think about their ecosystem designed around helping advisors now, so they've got the client portal. Obviously, Class is going to help do tax returns for self-managed super funds, maybe trusts in the future. Then their normal product in relation to the Wrap platform, which is been around for a while now. It means that they're going to the ability to work with one platform provider. In theory, could be possible, but we know at the moment 2 or 3. It seems to be 2 or 3 providers that an advisor uses 2 or 3 providers.
Yep.
Do you see that? Is that going to change, or what has to change to allow for consolidation there?
For me, there's 2 forces that would drive this monogamous relationship between a platform and advisor, which is what you see in the US.
In the UK, yeah.
In the UK.
In the US, yeah.
Yeah. And there's a lot of sense to it when you think about it. Because a lot of the complexity in a business is actually different online systems and
absolutely.
Let's not even go down the fee consent discussion, but that's another example, right? But I think the first, I'm not a compliance guy, but I'd say best interest would have to change.
Yep.
And safe harbor steps would have to change. That's probably the first thing from a regulatory point of view. I also know advisors pretty well, and I know they do like to sort of, I wouldn't call it spread their risk, but they do like to sort of demonstrate to their clients that they have other platform relationships. They're not stuck to one provider, and frankly, it's not easy to move client money once you put them in there, right? So I think there's good reasons as to why advisors may use more than one. I question the value of using more than 2 potentially. Longer term because of the inefficiency factor, and maybe that's where we'll land in the future. We could be used to. The other factor will probably be more external. That's if we just see rapid consolidation in the platform market. We haven't quite seen that yet with the Wexit kind of stuff, and BT was unable to sell itself. That was going to be an interesting one if someone acquired the BT Wrap, for example.
Yeah, what happened? No one wanted to pay the high price for the asset.
That seems to be the case.
Yeah, and look, if you think about it from when you acquire a financial planning business or a book of clients to an existing practice, the synergies to me is you're only taking the client's revenue on your existing cost base, and you don't want any of the legacy stuff. Like you're not using the SOA templates that the previous advisor used, or you're not using their software and my software. So there's sort of, you throw out everything else that you bought besides the client relationships. And so for someone to buy like the Panorama, they kind of want the same thing. They just want the client relationships and the fund. They don't want the asset being this $1 billion plus or minus, depending who you talk to at the pub, this $1 billion piece of software that was built that now is useless. You can't, like CFS or Hub don't want 2 platforms.
No. Yeah, there would be a migration. There would be enormous costs and complexity in that.
Yeah.
These businesses aren't as actually light on resources either, so there'd be big restructuring costs and you name it. There's complexity there, right?
Yeah.
And stuff.
The other interesting thing about the consolidation of the Wrap providers is the funny thing that I always give as a problem to the heads of these providers is that if you take the context of 2 industry super funds merging, they actually go to the tax office and they get a private ruling to merge their assets without capital gains tax.
Yep.
And so there's don't quote me on the law, but they get an agreement like with a private ruling to merge those particular assets. But I can't move from CFS to BT or BT to Hub24, even though I might retain the same underlying asset, call it Vanguard. I can't actually move between providers without triggering a CGT. So I gave all of the Wrap providers that problem to say, if you could work out how to move with a private ruling without incurring tax unnecessarily for our clients' superannuation, we'd actually consider moving products.
Yeah, and some would love
No one
that.
took me up on that one
No.
yet.
Well, it depends on what side of the ledger you are in terms of net flows. Some would love a ruling like that. Others would not.
Yeah, absolutely. But hopefully if like BT was sold to someone and then they were going to roll it into CFS or Hub or whatever it is, you'd get the capital gains tax relief through that acquisition process. But it would be amazing to be able to do it at a client level along the journey. I think that would be a win for them.
Yeah.
So coming back, so in terms of the client portals and the other options that are available in the market. So what's an advisor's framework for making the decision? Like, how do they choose between portals that you've sort of seen in the industry? Like, what's a must have when they're going through this journey of adding portals into their business?
I genuinely, a lot of businesses we've sat down with haven't actually thought about it too deeply. So let's go for a hypothetical exercise.
Yeah, of course.
But I think the 101 factors are obviously secure messaging.
Yep.
I'd say fact finding has to be in the portal. That's where it belongs.
Yep.
Frankly,
Yep.
It will. I wouldn't say full fact finding, light fact finding. Let's call it. We would just update their details.
Yeah.
Obviously, document management, signatures, consolidated reporting is important as well, but from an advice perspective. Interesting enough, the open banking stuff doesn't come up as often when you talk to people about, do they want all the fees?
Is open banking here yet? Like, is there any good use cases of it actually working?
Well, My Prosperity use the open banking aggregation services.
Yes.
I think they use Yodlee or Frollo. I can't remember which one. And others do as well. And I personally like it because I like we've got bank accounts and things everywhere. So it's actually nice having it in one spot, and nice and for transaction data and those things. So it does give the advisor, if they have access to the data, the ability to have budget and cash flow conversations with their clients if they want to. But for some advisors, that's not as important. I think it's demographics, right?
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
Your value prop.
And I think that it's the chicken and the egg, that if you don't have the platform, you can't get the cash flow data. So then you can't have the conversations. But we've got to have a really good story around the security. So Absolutely. That's the story of we've recommending this My Prosperity service. It's not a product, but it is a service that we're hanging our business on. And then we have to communicate to the client that it's okay to provide their banking details into this platform or this service to get this data feed. And when then you turn to the Commonwealth Bank, and the Commonwealth Bank says, never share your password with anyone. And then we're over here going, oh, no, it's okay. Just put it into My Prosperity and it'll set up the data feeds. And this is the conversation that we need to practice, because we're not the tech experts of describing this. And so I would say that it has 128 or 264 something bit encryption, but I have no concepts whether that's enough. Like, why aren't we up to 500 and something encryptions, Peter? That I'm not sure about that, but just the story on how we can do that well to give clients confidence.
Yeah, and I know a lot of the tech providers do try to spend time coaching advisors on having those conversations. There is a certain cohort of the community that are never going to accept that, and you know what? They don't have to put their bank details in there. The portal still works for them. Yeah. So they can still do all those other jobs with their advisor. And if they don't want to use the banking stuff, that's fine. From talking to the portal providers, and the My Prosperity guys have shared some insights with me over the years, the property price one's the one that always gets the most interest from. Yeah. So it gives you live updates of your property price based on fluctations in your suburb and all those sort of things. So people are interested in that. Let's face it, it's the biggest part of most people's personal balance sheet is their house. The other aspect that I think was unique to My Prosperity, and probably why Hub were interested in it, was that they've obviously built the accounting side of the equation, which none of the other portal providers have really expanded into. When I mean lodging of tax returns,
amazing
integration,
know that
integration with Xero, MyOb, and all those tools that accountants use every day. And their philosophy, and this is probably what I believe why Hub bought My Prosperity and why it would have been difficult to build themselves, is that to build a portal which has a rich ecosystem of integrations into the wealth industry and also the accounting market, it's bloody hard. It's a long time consuming thing. Accounting is easier for integrations because the data model is the same. A tax return is a tax return.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a software provided by the ATO, essentially.
But wealth
most amazing thing.
Wealth couldn't be more complex.
Indeed, so it makes it more complicated.
But if you think about it, if you're a customer for your portal and you have your tax returns, your engagement with your accountant, and it can work with any accountant. Doesn't have to be
and if so your planner and your accountant, they don't set you up to My Prosperities. you've got one My Prosperity, and your accountant and your financial advisor are using the one portal, which is quite powerful. Doesn't matter who's paying for it, but at the end of the day, like that's quite a powerful mix. And so, Peter, you touched on the integrations, right? And so My Prosperity has pre this deal made sure that it was integrating with a lot of different providers. So that's the CRM world. So push and pull data from Advisor Logic, Xplan, and the like. So that's one element of it. But also this push and pull from CFS or other wrap platforms as well. It's going to make maybe an awkward conversation at the dinner table around this integration is important and obviously demanded by advisors. How do you think those chats are going to go? Going to continue, going to grow, or is this we're going to see a fence built around it?
I hope it doesn't come to that.
Yeah.
I think any platform provider that takes that stance is selling their advisors short.
Yep.
Because if you actually look at the even what Hub's projections are for the business, they've made some pretty conservative assumptions on growth of FUM in their platform based on owning My Prosperity. It's a kind of a rounding error in the scheme of what they grow at organically anyway. So a lot of their case is actually on just expanding usage of the portal. So I don't. First of all, I don't see a scenario where Hub will want to just make it only for their advisors. I think that would be nonsense. I think the other reality too is that My Prosperity has close to a critical mass of users as you could find in Australia. So they do have a lot of good IFA customers. So about 450 practices across Australia. I don't know. If you're hungry for business, you'd be a bit cutting off your nose to spite your face on that front. I think it might change maybe some of the commercial opportunities some of the platforms might have been thinking about with the My Prosperity. But look, time will tell. When Hub bought Class, a lot of people were predicting that, Class would change its roots and BGL would take over and all this sort of stuff would happen. None of that played out.
And I think ultimately we're all better off growing the pool, the addressable market, or this pool. So we would all love to be able to serve, one post that I did a couple of days ago. Like my goal is that we're serving 700,000 more clients with our current advisor numbers as they stand, because to grow the advisor pool is a long process under the current rules of going through university and PY. Growing the number of advisors that way is slow. So the challenge is to go, well, each advisor needs to or has the opportunity to serve more clients. So that pool will grow by virtue of us being able to rely on technology to help us through the different business processes. And so relying on the client portal and then the integration with whatever you use, be it Hub and CFS or BT, whatever it ends up being, that's really valuable. That all this data is being securely but professionally shared between the providers such that the front line, call us the advisor front line, is able to just serve 200 clients, as Adrian Paddy challenged me, serve 200 clients per advisor, and then maybe we don't have an advisor shortage.
Yeah, I'm with Adrian. Like, I think you can absolutely break that that rule that people created many years ago, that it's one advisor per 100 clients. I don't know how that started, but it was kind of a rule of thumb, right? Maybe for advisors that didn't want
made by advisors. But it's
salaried advisors.
I'm flat out. So,
but now everyone's business owners, right? So they're thinking really differently. They want to put scalability in their business. They're more tech savvy. So you're absolutely right, and I think so. So I do think the portal. We predicted the portal space would become more competitive. We think it will. I think this will make other platforms lift their game potentially. I think, but what I have to say though, Dean, is that I still don't think that a platform intimately tied with a portal offering is necessarily what advisors want. I think I see the portal as a standalone product, and that's how Hub are representing it to the market. They're going to run My Prosperity as its own subsidiary, it does its own thing, and there may be a lot of users that never even use Hub's platform.
Good to know.
Because back to the original question, what are the sort of things people should be thinking about? I mean, if you put a client portal into your business and get all your clients on it. Let's say I have 250 clients on it. Good luck trying to change that in a couple of years' time if you make the wrong decision. And the change management that goes with moving all your clients. So I think it's hard to change platforms.
Yeah.
Imagine trying to move your clients off portals and all the things that go with that. So
well, that's just why the NPS score of Xplan is negative. I'm really into the advice report at the moment, the advice tech report from Advisor Ratings, but and the score of Xplan is low, consistently low and negative, but yet the percentage of the market they have is stagnant to growing, and then they put their prices up by 16% and everyone's negative, but they're stuck. So, if you think about it from that way, from My Prosperity, if you got all your clients hooked onto your platform, your portal, change management is impossible. And if you're running 3 client portals, Peter, I reckon that's the most inefficient business that you could be. Like, I struggle with Viber and WhatsApp and text messaging and iMessaging and emails. Imagine adding 3 portals to that in the way that clients communicate to you. And so if the one idea of this secure messaging was that clients could either call you or only communicate through the app, that's actually going to get everyone's focus really well on the use of the portal.
Yeah. So the advice we give clients is the portal should be independent of the platform itself. So don't rely on the platform's portal for everything.
Yes.
And that's a curiosity I've always had with sort of net wealth strategy, who are trying to build almost a My Prosperity equivalent, but on their platform. And I'm going, well, what if you're using other things? So My Prosperity has that infrastructure, or attached to the CRM. So you've got, Xplan's portal needs work, but Advisor Logic have rolled out a new portal capability, which is looking, pretty good.
It's looking good.
Yeah. IntelliFlow come in the market with a very schmick portal that's used widely in the UK. The one differentiator I would say that My Prosperity have that others is it's completely built mobile. So they built it mobile first. It's an app or an app store. A lot of the other portals are HTML, designed more for laptop. And I think this is why they've got such a good price for their business, frankly, is that decision, whenever it happened, to build on apps, which I know has covered a lot of heartache and costs because you've got to go through a lot of hoops.
Well, you got to build it twice. As I understand it, you have to build it twice. There's the Google Play Store and Apple Store. It's not just copy and paste. There's a different language there. So they've had to build it. Yeah, you're absolutely right. They've had to build it twice almost, which is painful. But it goes without saying that everyone does the vast majority of things on their mobile phone now.
Yeah. And I think, and particularly that, camera functionality, all that sort of stuff. So I feel like that's probably what's driven the valuation. I know a lot of people have been surprised how much Hub paid for the product, but if
what actually, I didn't read that
40 million, up to 50 with earn out, 10 times revenue.
Yep.
2 takeaways for that. One is I don't think you could build it for $40 million if you started from scratch tomorrow for any of the platform providers.
And how long would it? And not only that, how long would it take to build it? So that's
and this is what drives a lot of M&A in Silicon Valley. It's just literally
even to rebuild, even building a house now, you're better off buying one that's finished.
Yep.
Because you don't know what it's going to cost if you decide to build it, and that's the house. So it's the same thing with a tech project.
And with the entire, I think that was So I think it's just that catch-up footy perspective that they just knew it was worth paying a lot more. And to be honest, 10 times revenue is pretty common in SaaS markets. I mean, some of the numbers you sort of. So I think Hub picked it up at a good price, even though some of the stock analysts don't feel that. I genuinely think. Purely from a product perspective, good price. But what it should also do is for the other tech sort of participants in our industry that are really working hard to build solutions for our sector, it should hopefully give them maybe some confidence or some hope that their valuation aspirations are there. It's not just about that. They have to get a whole bunch of other things right for these things to happen. But there's at least I know one other advice tech provider who said, "Oh well, at least we have a comparable sale now we can reference." And it's, you know what? It's absolutely true.
It's not that they're raising new money at a higher valuation the next day, but it shows to the exit valuation that you might be able to get when you actually get knocked on the door to exit.
Yeah, and I think, and I just hope, I do know, because I talked to a lot of people, I do notice we do get stuck in a bit of a finite game mentality in wealth, where we're like, oh well, if I'm losing, other people are winning, and if if other people are winning, I'm losing. It's not like that.
We're growing the pool.
Rising tide lifts
Absolutely.
all boats, and deals like this, I think, are great for everybody. Yeah, that's my view.
Indeed. So good to think about this in our businesses, Peter. So the big call to action for advice practices is that don't do a lot of work and research in terms of project management before you decide on a client portal. But then you've got to build that change management. But the view is that if you've got your clients completely on a portal, one way to communicate, we should be able to get that nirvana of 200 clients, 200 clients per advisor, or streamlining all of the communication nonetheless through that one portal to make clients' lives easier, and then obviously our lives easier as well. So thanks very much, Peter, for jumping on at late notice. Thanks for the call out. Craig Kamana says you a cup of coffee and lunch when he's in Melbourne, so feel free to call him out on that and get yourself a lunch. But to all of our listeners, thanks very much for listening. If you've listened on the podcast and you have any questions, just reach out to us on LinkedIn, and more than happy to chat further. Till then, have a great day. Thanks, Peter.
Thanks, Dave.